This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good day, good afternoon everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve here. It's very interesting weather and clear sky. All animals and impalas, they are in a shed. This is actually the sign that it's actually warming up pretty much this afternoon, and I think it's also for their own benefit. It's so cool that they sit in their shed, that they don't get burned too much in this kind of a temperature that is already rise up to 31 degrees this afternoon. But we're going to find out what we're going to see and how we're finding all of these animals. In the meantime, if you jump aboard to your very own live safari through the African wild. Good afternoon everybody. Once again, we're sitting here at one of the shadow. Actually, we're on the southern side of Gari Dam itself. You can see these antelope aren't really close to the watering hole at all because of they find themselves into this one of the beautiful shadow they ever need around here. So my name is Andrew this afternoon, and on camera I have Darcy. So these impalas, we were actually hoping to find them either near the watering hole, but then there was nothing there when we were driving around here. But then we're not looking for only impalas, but any animal that may find themselves close to that watering hole, because it's actually very warm today. So we weren't really surprised to see also such as an elephant also maybe swimming around this time of the day. Just these two, they're just resting. Meanwhile, they're all of them standing up. It's all about look out, the safety. So everybody who are coming from these locations, also various different locations for you, we really love your comments and questions every time when you send them. And then if you can also do that as well using hashtag WildEarth on Twitter, and then also at FC, that is also on YouTube. And then if you are under the age of 18, you can also pop us in a mail on kids questions at wildearth.tv. But also simple way, it's actually when you go on WildEarth website and you head over to the live safari page, and you can submit your question there once you register. And then also, so would be my plan of the day here, where Dean and Ngala also will be mobile, and JP, Cedric is also helping on the far side. So let's quickly take a look at the weather.
Good afternoon and welcome to WildEarth. We're live at Eco Training Pridelands. We just about to start our walk and we heard the calls of a very small owl that's known as an African scops owl. And as it came down to the drainage line, we actually discovered one of our largest owl species, which is known as a Vero's eagle owl, sitting up in the tree. Still not been able to locate the scops owl, as they're so tiny. They're 14 centimeters, and they're so well and cryptically colored that it's very, very hard to spot them. So my name is JP Leroux, and behind the camera we've got Gerrit. I'm just going to focus back onto our owl and see what he's getting up to. So for those of you that are not familiar with Vero's eagle owl, one of the old names for them used to be a giant eagle owl, as they're one of the two largest owl species in southern Africa. The females can get up to roughly 3.2 kilograms in weight. What we do find is that they're only surpassed by the Pell's fishing owl, which is slightly larger, which is an all ginger owl, which is quite easily to separate and specializes in catching fish. To come back to the Vero's eagle owl, if you have a look at the moment, you'll notice that there's little ear-like tufts that are sticking up. And that's generally used to break up his shape when he's resting against a tree. And quite often it's confused for being ears. However, the ears are actually much further lower down, closer by to the eyes. What I also find quite interesting about owl ears is that they're actually asymmetrically positioned. Combined with asymmetrical ear positioning and the parabolic facial disc, it actually channels the sound and enables the owl to more accurately pinpoint its prey. In terms of prey, these guys go for anything from rodents, ground birds, as well as anything up to the size of small monkeys, as well as apparently piglets they've gone for as well. So I've often seen them that they will actually crash into trees going for guinea fowl, creating quite a large disturbance when they do make their kills. So in the meanwhile, we're going to send you over to Dan, who would like to say hello, and we're going to watch our owl and see what he's up to, and also see if we can maybe find our little African scops owl as well.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. So this morning was a productive morning out in Ngala, and they managed to find a portion of the Birmingham Pride on a pretty fresh buffalo carcass. There is a smaller one that's just gone off to the left who was feeding now. It was quite funny, he had himself right in the carcass. And you can see there's still lots of food left there. It's just the cavity there by the stomach where the insides have been taken out. A bit on the front shoulder, and the cheekbones of this have been gone. Here comes one of the cubs. Let's see if it comes around. Let's see if this little one doesn't come around a bit more, and then you see it put his head right in there. And there goes its head into the stomach. I mean, to get to some of the softer meat on the inside, you'll see now with its head on the inside like that, it won't have to like peel away skin. It'll get straight to meat. It's quite funny when you see little lions like this kind of literally crawling into a carcass, and you'll see they often get covered in blood when they come out, particularly when it's very fresh. I mean, this buffalo was killed this morning sometime. And yeah, I mean, well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Daniel Fisher. Sorry, I'm just fixing this piece. And what a great way to start this afternoon. This morning was a bit of a tricky morning for us here at Ngala. We didn't manage to get out, but it's a really good way to start this afternoon. On camera this afternoon, we've got Johan. And it is awesome to be seeing this Birmingham Pride again. I mean, they're not all together. I've only counted about 5 of lions here, and that only includes 2 of the bigger lionesses, and then a few of the cubs. So 2 of the big lionesses, at least 2 of the cubs I've seen now, and then it looks like there might be 1 younger male at the back there. It's quite interesting the attention that's also being brought to this carcass. I mean, there are a few vultures and things that are around. kind of circling in. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of happens throughout this afternoon, or probably more likely this evening when it really does start to cool down. These vultures that are all coming in, and actually, so there's these two that are, excuse me, these two that are sitting on the tree over here. The one on the right-hand side is a white-backed vulture, and the one on the left is a hooded vulture. And way up in the sky, I can see 3 vultures that are now starting to circle down here. And the buffalo is still in a very open area. Vultures in this area use exclusively eyesight to look for prey. So they would have seen this from a long way away, and they'll come down towards it. And you'll see, if I can notice vultures coming down like this, you can be certain that all other predators around will be watching and looking for these vultures. That includes other lions that might be many kilometers away. They'll see these vultures coming down, and depending on the number of vultures that come down, it will bring them towards here. Hyenas as well. I'm sure as it starts to cool down, hyenas and things might start to get a bit more active. But even then, I mean, for the most part, lions and hyenas would be sleeping in the heat of today, in the heat of the day, and today is pretty warm. But if there is an obvious sight of vultures coming down, they will follow it straight there. Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see if any other lions don't get up and come and start to feed on this carcass. I think it's going to be an interesting afternoon.
So we're on the bumble in this kind of like very open sky. We'll be checking the various water hole around here, hoping to find some elephants maybe around watering hole. They're more likely maybe wanted to swim, elephants, because they love swimming during the heat of the day. In fact, I haven't actually checked in this area of the north part of the camp itself in a while. So for a change, it would be great just to see for a change what is going to be around. Oops. Very interesting weather. But it's great that, you know, we're also able to receive the heat that we have been through the coldest and the wind for the last week or so. I believe also animals love it, even though some of them they would need a shade, but they also love such a weather like this, because then just before dark they will aim to go drink before they vanish into the open area for them to take it easy for the night. So I'm checking the Mvubu Road. I'm going to check one of the dam, the Tswalu Dam up in the north. That still also have water. So we'll find out what we're going to find there.
Yeah, good afternoon again. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. We're having a bit of a bumble start and a little surprise on the road. That's quite welcome. A red-crested coron there. Yeah, so my name is Cedric. I have Becky on the camera with me this afternoon. So I just spotted it now as soon as we came live, so that's quite nice. Yeah, so it's a beautiful red-crested coron. Yeah, so our plan on our side for this morning is to drive around. We left camp a bit earlier this afternoon to drive a few roads. So we did drive a bit already. Didn't see much. Now we'll continue on Rebecca's Road and try Mondoza Road after. It is a beautiful bird. We have a very distinguished call, which is very nice to hear. And they also clap their beak. Speaking of a bit of French here, clap their beak, which is very nice as well. Looks like it's walking into the bush. So they have quite a nice ritual before mating. The male will fly straight up into the air and then close his wing and fall like a rock to the ground, but just before hitting the ground he will open his wing and land safely, obviously. So it's called red-crested coron because when it's mating time for the male they will lift their plumage on the head and there will be a little red spot. I saw that only 2 times, I think. It is quite rare to see. It was nice on the road and now decided to go hide in the long grass and the thicket there. Okay, but that was nice to see. Maybe if I go a little bit forward we can get a better look. Hopefully it will not go away. I'll go slowly and see if we can see it. I can't see it at the moment. There's quite a bit of long grass here. That's a big got it at the back there. There it is. Oh, very close to us actually. I was looking deeper into the bush. Beautiful. Yeah, so maybe we'll do a bit of birding at the beginning of this afternoon. It is quite warm here and windy, but it's so warm that I think most of the animals, especially the predators, will be lying in the shade. Okay, so we'll continue on that side. In the meantime, we will send you to JP, who started birding as well.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Bushwalk. We're still with our Vero's eagle owl that's perched up in that tree in front of us. So while you were gone, he had his nap interrupted by a number of birds that came in to come and investigate. One of those was a grey go-away bird. He wasn't very happy with it. So a grey go-away bird did bring a lot of attention on him. It's also interesting to see how he rapidly was moving his head from left to right. And one of the amazing things is that owls can move their heads from left to right at an arc of approximately some 270 degrees, which is humanly impossible to achieve. And one of the only other creatures I know that can do that is bush babies, who also have eyes that are fixed into their skulls and therefore have to move their heads at those angles. But to come back to the owl, I was also asked if there's anything interesting that I can tell about its breeding behavior. So with Vero's eagle owls, as far as I know, they're always monogamous. They form pairs. And quite often when you do find a pair, you'll notice that the female is the larger of the two, and generally up to 10% larger than that the male is. And what you also find is that once they've mated, they will actually utilize the nest of other birds that will be in the area, as if they don't build their own nest. One of the nests that I've often seen them using is that of a hammerkop. And in some way, there's a little bit of a trade-off. If a hammerkop is inside and this chick is left unattended, the owl does work as some form of deterrent to actually keep away predators from the nest. And then obviously the owl gets given a nesting platform to utilize. I was going to see what else he's getting up to. I'm actually amazed about how much birds have been coming through here this afternoon. Good afternoon, Lincoln, and welcome to the show. And with regards to your question, is it normal to see them in the day? Sometimes we do find them perched up in a sunny little spot in the later part of the afternoon. But generally, owls are night active species. However, one of our smaller owl species, which is known as a pearl-spotted owlet, utilizes daylight in the early morning and the late afternoon, and it mainly focuses on catching little birds as well as small little rodents. It's also interesting is with these larger owls, they tend to actually have very specialized feathers on the leading edge of their wing to muffle the sound that they produce. While those like the smaller ones, as the pearl-spotted owlet I mentioned, which goes for insects and small little birds, don't have that specialized adaptation. Just to go back to our owl, it's a grey go-away bird that has come in again to come and complain. He's also now been joined by a fork-tailed drongo, which might actually start attacking them. So quite often we find that birds, once they've detected a potential threat, will start collectively mobbing that threat or alerting one another of the presence of that potential threat so that the bird of prey can't catch them off guard. As we're probably familiar with fork-tailed drongos, you might have actually seen them attacking a number of different birds of prey, including birds as big as martial eagles. We're going to move on, and in the meanwhile, let's go and see what Dan and his lions are up to.
Welcome back, everybody. So we've just kind of moved around the carcass more into the shade just to check how many lions there actually are. And there's 3 of these cubs that are just sitting on the termite mound in the shade. They've all got incredibly full bellies. Just kind of taking it easy, lounging around, enjoying the shade of the tree after having a good meal at the buffalo carcass. So I see these 3 cubs who are around 7 months old. Then I saw one of the bigger lionesses, 2 big lionesses in fact, 2 subadult young males I think I counted, and then 2 of the little cubs that are around 5.5 months old or so. All very happy and content. It's a few lions, it's not so many lions. One would expect maybe a few more lions to have brought this buffalo down. I'm sure the 2 older lionesses were in charge to have a look at this one coming right towards us here, leaving the shade. Probably going to come and say hello to this female that's lying in the grass here, their mother. Look at that greeting. And then just kind of sit on her front shoulder. Amazing how this lion blends into the grass. Little sneeze. I wonder if it's not thinking about going back towards the carcass. Are you thinking about resting in more of the shade here? Or is it looking for a good place to go and have a sleep here? Or maybe even go to the loo. Mason, did one lioness take down this buffalo? It's impossible to answer the question because I wasn't here, but I reckon between the 2 of these lionesses, they at least initiated it and probably put themselves in a really good position to bring this lion down. To bring this buffalo down, excuse me. And these smaller cubs that we're seeing, there's another small one that's coming in towards this one over here. And the cubs would have had nothing to do with the buffalo bringing down because it's just too dangerous and too risky. They may have watched from a distance, but then it looks like there's 2 younger males as well that are here. They may have assisted, but I'm sure for the most part the 2 bigger lionesses were in charge of this hunt and they were responsible for bringing this buffalo down. It's pretty crazy to think that just 2 lionesses would have brought this buffalo down. Hunting buffalo is pretty dangerous and you've got to be very careful and very experienced. Both these lionesses are incredibly strong, incredibly experienced as well, and they obviously saw an opportunity and they took it. It's interesting, in the past few weeks I've actually seen very few live buffaloes. I don't even know where the Birmingham Pride has been finding buffaloes in the blocks, because I haven't been seeing many, even buffalo bulls. But more often than not in the past few weeks, we've found this Birmingham pride feeding on buffalo carcasses. And when a lion pride gets to the size that this is, around 24 lions, you need to be hunting bigger prey like buffalo and giraffe to ensure that all the mouths are fed.
It's been a very chilly winter here in the southern hemisphere, but now it's starting to heat up. The sun is rising a little earlier, which means, of course, the animals are too. From the 17th of August, the WildEarth team will be venturing out as the dawn chorus begins, as the sunrise safari will be starting half an hour earlier. Lock those times into your diary and set those alarms to make sure you don't miss out on your safari through the African bush.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me, it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward.
The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point.
And then, that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
I say the bedding and the call, definitely, for me, it was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but in sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
I got into wildlife filmmaking because of a passion for nature and a notion that I could make a difference. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun. A couple of times per week, we receive some very heartfelt messages from viewers telling us about how WildEarth has made a difference in their life, whether it's helped them through a difficult period or simply helped them to reconnect with nature. I think that's why we do what we do.
So everybody, we have found a bull elephant that is now pushing over a tree, or the tree that was slightly down. I don't know why he's now trying to push it again. So probably this is a way of the access to the roots. So we've seen 2 bull around here, and this is actually the closest one that we can see from the road. And it's always a usual way of being a bull elephant. They don't really follow females quite a lot. They do when they're there or when the female's hooked up. But eventually they would move a separate way on their own. And how do they get used to being separated? It's from, when they're age of 12, probably 15 years there, and then their mother forced to move them out of the herd, and that they gain that experience, gaining experience of following these bigger males, which they already knew how to forage out here. Alga, you're asking would the both male and the female push trees over the trees? Yes, they do. So actually they mean to do that quite a lot because of their feeding methods. So they would push tree just like that male that what he was doing there. So it was also about getting access to the roots. Once the tree is down, you know, all the roots has to be visible from the base, and they will go through these roots. So female also can do that, male can do it, especially this time of the year where there's not much green around here. They would do a lot of these trees, and that tree that he just push it over again, it looks like he just turned it up because it was flat, and then sort of like a regrow up some of the branches. So over the years, elephants been in this area, the whole entire reserve, and there have been done a lot of these destructions, and they actually repeatedly again every now and then, over and over, come to an area, do the same. But they're actually playing important roles in the ecosystem. Where many of the trees, grasses grow very healthy and tall in the fallen tree. In the end, provide such a hide for many other small animals such as scrub hares, you know, these baby leopards that will be hidden, snake, they will find a shadow or hide in these thick grasses and all the falling wood. So since he got what he need, he will be standing there from now until then he finished. There's no need for him to push on moving while he got as sweet as food he ever need. So everybody, we're going to stay put here with this bull elephant. Hopefully the partner is going to join. In the meantime, let's go over to JP, who is got something on a walk.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Bushwalk. Just located in a large pile of dung right over here, and this is one of the resting places of the hippo bull that we had here a few weeks ago. Since the water levels has been dropped and the competition of the elephants have become too intense for him, he's actually moved out of the area. So if we look at it, they generally form these little round balls. When they defecate, when they rest, the bulls don't tend to spray their dung, as if they typically would do against the edge of a water when they are marking a territory, or when they're moving away from water as a navigational aid. Some of the other things that we can look at when we do look at its dung is that it consists of grass. And this is what they basically eat. Quite often people would confuse them for eating a large number of other things. However, if they are stressed, they will go for water plants. Some of the other dung that we have around here is elephant, which you can see is quite coarse-grained compared to the dung of the hippo, which is much finer grained and tends to be black in color compared to where the elephant dung tends to be much more red in color due to the large amount of tannins. So coming back to the hippo's dung, that black coloration is generally when you have silicates that oxidize when it gets in contact with oxygen. Another species of dung that we have over here is buffalo. There's also a little piece of buffalo dung. If we do look at it, very fine grained. And the reason why it's so fine-grained is because the buffalo is actually a ruminant, and it rechews its cud, and it has a complex 4-chambered stomach. If we do look at the stomach of the hippopotamus, it interestingly has a 3-chambered stomach, unlike the elephant, which has got a single large stomach. And this 3-chambered stomach is one of the characteristics which they share with their close relatives, which is whales and dolphins. We often see that whales and dolphins actually made their way from water onto land and evolved into mammals, and those mammals evolved back into marine animals. They become incredibly large animals because the water supports their body weight. One of the things I also do find quite interesting as another characteristic which they often find with whales and dolphins is a vestigial limb that is just underneath the skin at the hind part of it, where the hind leg would have been. Comparing the 4 limbs have been modified into flippers to assist to propel it through the water. Unlike whales and dolphins, hippos can actually not swim. They actually have to push themselves off the surface of the floor of that river or dam when they want to propel themselves forward. I've actually seen it over the years quite a few times that when we do have strong flooding taking place in rivers, those hippos will then move out into the side tributaries or away from the main stream where they can potentially get washed away and drown. We also see with hippo they can stay underneath water for quite a while, so they generally stay there anything up between 5 and 6 minutes for an adult. However, the young generally stays there for some 20 to 45 seconds. Young animals will also often rest on top of the mother when they're not or if the water is slightly too deep for their liking. We're going to start moving off and go and see what else we can go and find. As we move off, let's go and see what Andrew and his elephants are up to.
JP, good luck there on your search around. And then we're still sitting here very still, and our elephant is still there. The other one hasn't actually coming into this area. But it's also very important when they feed stationary, they're all just gonna spread around and be apart from one another. It's got one of the fork-tailed drongo there. It's all about how they benefit from animals, these birds. So they pick up any of the flying insect that may disturb by these animals. That's why you always find them. Or some starling as well. Sorts of different starling, what's all starling. And they also sometimes follow herds, buffaloes, and they can cattle egret as well. Is about the same. Perhaps is that it always takes time for them to spot their own prey, such as a small insect. But when the animals move and they disturb all of these insects, it's quite a lot easier for this animal to get it immediately. So he's still there, and then it's probably that because the roots are sweet, tasty for him, and that's why he won't leave that area. He may sometimes do more of that pushing in a tree to get the rest of the roots that they may remain connected to the ground. just witnessing something about unique in that tree there. It's quite a lot of wiring around that tree. So it's all about, they're trying to make sure elephants mustn't debark these trees as you see this wiring. So they can try, but maybe they won't be able to debark anymore. They do this quite a lot of these amarula trees many times. And they'll check from time or every year, because the trees grow, so that wire mustn't maybe strangle very hard into that tree. Simon H, 13. So you're asking whether elephants still get the ticks? Yes, they still get, even though they're very rough or very strong skin. Some ticks, those bite mainly on the rhinos, and they can also bite on the elephants, especially the underneath of that animal. And that's why they would mainly love to mud bath, sprayed over their body with mud, and then after that they would need such a trees, or maybe falling trees, a rub. And you see them do that, they go forth back. It's so that their skin, it's rankles, it's so much of a folders, as you can see there. Some of the older mud is dried up right to the top. And that is also still prevention against those ticks. Some of the parasite may lay eggs in these folders. Yeah, I noticed something about him. It looks like he just came into Mars, but he's so okay. We're far from him. A lot of time they don't cooperate, they don't accept any of the other companies when they're in the Mars, and they seems to be very stressed a little bit. So everybody, we're going to take another look at this elephant. I'm hoping the other brother or partner may come this way so we can see, or maybe see the difference in size also.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Bushwalk. We're out and about and we're at Leopard Dam at the moment. We've been looking at birds for most of the morning and this afternoon as well. And we're just busy talking about how amazed we are about how quickly these little Egyptian geese has grown. So for those of you that are not familiar with Egyptian geese, the adults actually form monogamous pairs, and the young, one hatch after some approximately 20 odd days, will immediately be able to follow the parents from out of the nest and straight into the water. And they can actually start feeding directly for themselves. Other than protection, there's very little responsibility that the adults will have for them in terms of having to provide food. Unlike that of most passerine bird species, where the young is dependent on the adults for a long period of time until they're fledged. And they will have to be fed, and they're also born or hatched without any feathers. I'm just going to put the camera on them for a short while and just have a look at what they're up to. Those viewers that might have noticed one of the birds that have dived, there's actually a little grebe, and he's just caught a little frog. He's just dropped it, and yeah, there he goes. He's back after it, and he's got his frog in his mouth. He's in line with the adult Egyptian geese. That's the first time that I've seen a little grebe actually catching an adult frog. Generally, they go for tadpoles and fish. They've also got very interesting feet that are set very well far back, which is like little mini propellers that actually propel them through the water. However, when they do go into land, they're not very effective walkers. I was going to see if he's going to pop up with that little frog of his. That's most likely a frog that we refer to as a platana, as this dam has a large number of them, and this morning we were watching a kingfisher that also caught one.
So we just had a try here to reposition to see how he does. As you can see, he's actually chewing still. And it's very interesting, that tree that he just pushed down is one of these combretum, the red bush willow. When it comes to the roots in this tree, the elephant will chow whole wood, and the roots, so tip end of these branches, the leaves. When I continue to do this, at the end of the day, I would be eating anything from about 150 to 200 kilogram of grasses and twigs and all of that a day. And he's actually one of these one tuskers. I believe maybe one tusk is just missing because of fight that has taken place during their life. They do fight for a dominate or pushing heavy trees around. It happens also. And that tusker, once it's broken off, it hardly won't grow back. Kenan, so you asked, why do we see an elephant alone? So mainly males, they tend to be isolated and be far apart from one another. Here when we come to this area, we actually saw another one. We didn't see this one close to the road. There was another one further away into the bush. We keep hearing trees he's actually pushing tree also there. But it's so that the male, sometimes you do find the males alone, 2, maybe 3, up to maybe 10 bull. But they're amazing how they do that. They don't mind being separated. Especially bulls that they just came to mast, you're more likely to leave the rest of his brothers and then continually follow the herd around. By doing that, at the end of the day, you may visit a lot of different group of herds. So it's only the reason sometimes you find a bull on his own. And you look at this trunk, so the tip end is like a finger, so it actually hold. So off. So Lerati, you're asking how old do I think he is? So he's probably about 40. He's actually fully grown male there. So average lifespan on elephants rings from 65, 70 perhaps. And they're lucky in a zoo, probably they can live more than that, where they're all taken care, but in a wild, maybe die of age of 50. A lot of problem with these animals. They come across their molars, their teeth, that they're chewing food every time. They used to have these teeth well and healthy and strong. So everybody, I'm not going to go anywhere now. I'm going to just wait here until see what he's going to end up to. So in the meantime, let's go across to Cedric, who is at the dam.
Yeah, welcome back with us. We just arrived at Treehouse Dam. We were looking at a warthog wallowing in the water there, but now they decided to leave. It was quite nice to see. There was a very big male. I think he went in the opposite direction. It's always nice where he comes. Very, very nice male there. Beautiful tusk. So it's very nice to come and see them drink water and roll in the mud. As you can see, he's a bit shiny, so he was in the mud. Unfortunately, they got a bit shy and decided to leave. But he had beautiful tusks, as you can see. You can see the wind is quite strong as well. They're joining back together at the back there. So warthogs here, I've noticed, are quite shy. So when we stopped the car, we had to stop a bit before the dam. And yeah, so then they just drink a little bit, roll in the mud, and decided to move on. It's a bit sad because it was quite nice to see. Okay, let me go a little bit forward. There's some impalas as well. A spatula herd of impalas. They were also drinking when we arrived. Well, at least one of them. The others, I think, finished drinking. So, obviously, it is warm today, so they will definitely go to water holes and drink. Okay, sorry, BK just asked me to go a little bit forward. The reason is, with the wind, there we go. Oh, the terrapin. I was focusing on the impalas there. Actually, I can't see from where I am. Very nice little terrapin in the sun there. So terrapin live in fresh water, tortoise live on land, and turtle live in seawater. So they can, of course, travel between dams and walk quite a big distance. During the rainy season, we can see them quite often on the road in little puddles of water, so you have to be careful a bit when you drive to not drive too much in the water. You will not want to drive on one of them. Let's see if we can get quite big. I'm not sure of the weight, but yeah, we can get quite big. I saw one nice shell next to Buffelshoek Dam, and it was quite, well, I mean big. I'm not sure how to explain, maybe the size of a soccer ball. But most of the time, I saw quite small one. This one I can see only on the camera how it is. It is quite a nice size one, but we can get bigger from that. Yeah, so normally there's quite a lot of terrapin in the water. It's quite nice sometimes to see them also lying on the hippo's back. So it's quite nice to spend some time with them. Okay, we'll sit here and see what happened. Otherwise, there's nothing happening, we will move on.
The Endangered Wildlife Trust fights at the forefront of conservation, across the vast Karoo and sweeping grasslands, in remote pockets of forest, along road networks, across African skies, and in communities to conserve our wildlife and wild spaces. Help us to protect forever, together. Donate now at ewt.org.za.
The scrap here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when he finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then
that was the opportunity of the scrappy.
You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Delivering 6 hours of HD wildlife content live every day is no small feat. It's a massive team effort, and we all rely on one another. Cam ops have a bit of work to do in the morning, up nice and early, get all the checks out of the way, and make sure we're ready to go live. Helping others fall in love with nature brings meaning to what I do. It's also a lot of fun.
Good afternoon and welcome back on Bushwalk. Just watching a giraffe for a short while, and unfortunately they've moved off and they went to go and feed elsewhere. Actually hoping that they were going to come and drink. That's one of my favorite things to see, is a giraffe drinking. This is amazing when they split their legs and they bring their heads down. It's also quite amazing to think of it, that there's a large amount of pressure that would be rushing towards the brain, and that they've got so many different adaptations, which includes elastic blood vessels, which can regulate the flow to and from different parts of the brain to prevent that they black out. We also find that they've got very thick skin around their legs, which also assist with blood pressure. One of the things I find particularly interesting with their blood pressure is that it's actually double what ours are. So roughly some 240 over 160 that they can reach. Just going to see what they're up to. Hopefully they're going to come back, or some other animals might come and have a drink, as it's really warm this afternoon. To also increase the temperatures, we've got a fairly warm wind that is blowing, and the ground temperature is roughly 31 degrees Celsius. At this time of the year, it is normally quite windy, and when one of the winds that we also additionally get at this time of the year is referred to as berg winds, where we find that the air comes over the central part of the plateau, drops down into the lower lying regions of the low veld, and as it descends, it also heats up, roughly at 1 degree Celsius for every 100 meters that it drops. Now, what that does, it creates incredibly warm conditions in the low veld, but it also increases the fire risk. And at this time of year, fire can also be a very important tool in terms of recycling all this dead plant material that is lying around after we had such a successful rainfall season. And that will be then washed back into nutrients and minerals with the first rains, when that ash gets washed into the soil, and that will become available to the plants again to provide a number of nutrients for them, as well as extra boost in their growth. Good afternoon, Nicolette, and welcome to the show. With a question, would a giraffe charge at you? It's very possible, and there's been a number of incidents that I've noted over the last 20 years where giraffes has been involved. One of them actually included a bicycle, and then also what you have seen as where animals that have been hand-reared have harmed and even killed humans. In general, a wild giraffe is quite relaxed, and as with any other animal, you should never ever cut off their escape route. As long as the animal has a sufficient escape route and you don't block it off and it can move off, it will move off on its own. It's also important that you as a human, when conducting walks, have an escape route for yourself as well as your guest if you are walking, to ensure that you don't get yourself into trouble either. So how they would defend themselves or how they would harm or kill a human is simply by kicking. And those are very, very effective weapons that they have. If you look at the hooves, they're almost some odd 20 centimeters in length, depending on the size and the age of the individual. And it's accompanied by incredibly powerful legs and a large body. I wonder how much pressure per square inch a kick like that would be able to exert. And they're also well known to have killed lions as well as other predators that harass them. We're going to move off and go and see what else we can go and find. Let's go and see what Andrew is up to.
JP, good luck. Well, indeed, yes, you're very right. Giraffe, one of the dangerous animals. You don't want charged by giraffe either. See how they kill lions even when they're running. They have a extremely kick. Just a beautiful herd of impalas here, which is so beautiful again, just to see how they find themselves into this wood area. So it's all a mix of the males that are in this group already. We already know that the rioting season is all in the end already. A lot of these females are heavily carrying, so whoever's a dominant in this group, he wouldn't mind so much about males coming to an area. There is no such a business that is going to happen anymore. He knew that. So everybody, I'm going to carry on, bumble around. In the meantime, let's go back to Dan with giraffe.
Okay, welcome back everybody. So we left those lions, still kind of, most of them for the most part, sleeping around the buffalo carcass in the shade. It may be an interesting one to go to this afternoon. And on our way out, I think I'm going to head out into the west from here. I'm really hoping to find wild dogs this afternoon. That would be an absolute treat. And on the way out, we've managed to bump into this beautiful male giraffe. He, when we initially got here, was covered in oxpeckers, like almost 15 of them, I guess. They all flew off very quickly. And there's still quite a few of them on his back there. I know it might be tricky to see exactly, but there's still plenty of oxpeckers on the back there, feeding on the ticks that may have been attracted to that giraffe. I mean, it's winter time, so there's not too many of them. You'll see giraffe or lots of the other animals around you, particularly in the summertime, absolutely covered in ticks, and that's when these birds are having a real good time. And they are in fact vampiric, so they feed off of the blood that is inside the ticks. And you'll see kind of when that giraffe has a wound, they may sit at that wound and kind of keep it open, feeding on the fresh blood. You'll see that when that kind of happens, at the moment, they've got a mutually beneficial relationship by helping the giraffe get rid of the ticks and the parasites. And then when there's a wound, the oxpecker's relationship with the giraffe changes from a mutually beneficial relationship to a parasitic relationship, where they're actually doing the giraffe a disservice. So I think that giraffe is about to disappear around the bush, and as it does, I may keep going. I wonder if there's not going to be a few more giraffe in and around this area. A big male like that, wouldn't be surprising to see him on his own, but I wonder if there aren't maybe some younger, smaller giraffe, maybe some females around it. Oh, as I say that, there's one in the distance. You can just see it looks like a male as well. I wonder, let me try and keep going, just have a look there. It's not too far away from the road as I keep going. Let's see if we can't get a little bit of a closer look here. You can hear a lot of oxpeckers. I wonder if those initial... Oh, as he flicked himself up there, I just saw lots of oxpeckers fly off of him. Let's see if they're not all stopped there and if we can find a spot to view him through. This does look like a pretty good one. Let me just get your hand in the right spot. I think that's all right. Oh, and there are lots of oxpeckers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least 7 oxpeckers, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, another 7 at least in the tree. It's quite amazing, actually. It's amazing how they can kind of Peter, do the oxpeckers only feed on ticks? No, they don't only feed on ticks. They do feed on some other parasites within the giraffe. And as I was saying earlier, it's not the ticks actually that they're feeding on. They're actually feeding on the blood that will be inside the ticks. The ticks feed on blood, and then the oxpeckers feed on the blood inside them, making them vampiric. But there will be a few other parasites that they'll feed on the giraffe. And so, of course, in a fresh wound, the fresh blood that will come out of that. It's amazing to watch a giraffe kind of move through there, slow and steady. They've got this huge stride, and although it looks like they're moving quite slowly, they do cover a significant amount of ground. It also looks like this giraffe is moving on. Erica, why don't we see big herds of giraffe? I mean, I've seen big groups of giraffe, or journeys of giraffe as people call them, and towers of giraffe are two collective nouns that people use for giraffe. And sometimes you see large groups. I think one of the larger groups of giraffe I've ever seen was around, well, on Ngala at least, was about 30 or so. It was quite remarkable and quite unusual, because you're right, we do normally see them in smaller groups. And it is quite unique in the way that giraffe have no real social structure. Most of the other animals out here have a social structure of sorts, whether it be they are independent or they live in a group. But they've got no real obligation to spending any time with any other giraffe. So only other time you will consistently see giraffes together is a mother and a calf. And even then, sometimes you'll see mothers and their calves kind of joining up and creating like a nursery. But even then, that's not permanent. They are nomadic and they kind of just move around, moving between each other, feeding on areas, and then joining up with small groups. Okay, so I'm going to keep going out into the west. I'm really hoping to see if we don't manage to find wild dogs this afternoon, and then as it starts to cool down, I might head back towards those lions.
So welcome back with us. We found some elephants moving along Gary Main. I'm just going to stay a bit quiet and just enjoy the sighting. Looks like they're moving towards Twin Dam actually. There's a young one at the back coming now. There we go. Very cute. It would be nice if we can go drink. They're not wet, so I don't think they have been drinking yet, but I'm not sure. It's always nice to spend time with some elephants. There are some vehicles coming on the road now. We'll just have to move quickly a bit. Yeah, so we did find some elephants next to Gary Main. So it is on the main road. There's a few cars driving past us. Yeah, so we were coming down the road and we saw from in the far distance we saw them cross the road. So we did rush here and we saw them there. It's a bit thick where they are now, but there's also some of them on the right hand side. Maybe we'll check that a bit later. I don't know if you can hear, but it is quite windy. Maybe if I move a little bit forward, after we'll get a better look. So they're currently feeding. They don't seem to be wet, so I don't think they drank already. We're not far from Tswalu Dam and also Twin Dam, so maybe a bit later they will head to one of the dams. Oh, it's quite windy. Now, I didn't see any elephants this morning, so this is quite nice. Yesterday evening we had a great sighting with elephants at Gary Dam towards the end of the show. Quick link to Ngala.
Okay, welcome back everybody. So, I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a lot of wind and apologise for that. It is a very typical August day here in the Lowveld. Just got to this big watering hole in the western part of our property called the Alfred Dam, and there's quite a few hippos around. And as we got here, there were two that were out. They just kind of made their way back into the watering hole. I wonder if the water temperature is not too cold for them, and they're just spending a bit of time on the bank warming up. Particularly the little ones often want to spend a bit of time outside warming up. But I wonder if the presence of us here didn't startle them and bring them back to the water. I didn't want to do that, of course. It was just as I popped up onto the wall here and saw them from a distance, they must have seen us as well and then come back into the water. I mean, hippos feel safest in the water, and that would be their kind of safety net. So if they ever do feel threatened in one way or another, they will pop back into the water. I just see something really small. Looks like it might be a jackal running around on the other side. It is a small jackal. It looks minute from here. Let's see if your hand can, it's on the far right. You see it trotting up there. Very tricky. Nah, I don't know if we're going to be able to get it. I think it's a bit far. But there's a black-backed jackal that might have come down and had a little drink and now on its way just trotting off. It'll be interesting to see with such a big, strong wind like this. You'll see that smell of the buffalo carcass that we were at earlier will travel large distances, and hyenas and all sorts of other scavengers like jackal as well will be making their way into that area this evening, even if it's just to pick up a little bit of a scrap of a leg or even some skin. It's not their first choice, but with the lions around, it's not always that easy. Just quite interesting, I mean, with so few lions around that carcass and a couple of cubs as well, there is a large opportunity for hyenas potentially to come through and intimidate them off. Okay, so I'm probably going to keep going into the west here, hoping to see if we can find wild dogs. And I'm going to send you from one watering hole to JP with his.
Good afternoon and welcome back. We're still at Leopard Dam and we're still looking at birds and seeing what they're getting up to. We were hoping that there was a few animals that would be coming in to come and drink because it's exceptionally hot this afternoon and the temperatures have really reached some 31 degrees Celsius today. And combined with a warm wind, it's also actually aggravated the temperatures a little bit more. So it's coming back to the Egyptian geese, which we are busy viewing at the moment. It's one of the common bird species that we often find here. And for those that of you that are following us on a regular basis, you would have seen over the last few weeks that they had chicks that hatched. But to come back to the Egyptian geese, I find something particularly interesting about them, as they used to be often displayed on hieroglyphics in ancient Egypt. We often see that they were also embalmed and entombed and placed into the large tombs for hunting in the afterlife, so that the pharaoh could have some sustenance. There's a number of other African animals that we also find quite commonly on safaris, which we also have associations with ancient Egypt, and one of those are the hippo, and there's a goddess by the name of Toret, which was a fertility deity, and they used to every year provide her with a sacrifice in the form of a human to try and appease some of the other animals that we find that is often displayed in hieroglyphics and forms part of the ancient Egyptian cultures was the crocodile god Sobek. And then lastly Anubis, which is the jackal, which often used to be believed that he would lead the dead into the afterlife. Oh, giraffe is now starting to slowly come back. I just want to see what they're going to get up to. They're actually staring there through that little tambuti thicket. And it seems that they're going to make their way towards the water. Let's watch them and see if they come closer.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
It's either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with the cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back with us. So we did reposition a bit and get a better view for these elephants. It's 3 individuals there. I've been standing here for a while now without moving too much. Looks like they're just relaxing. It is quite hot, and you can see that the female is flapping her ears. This will be to cool the blood that runs through the ears, and this blood will be redistributed to the body and will help cool down. It is quite a big herd. There's more elephants at the back, so some of them crossed the road already, the one we were looking earlier, and those one is in a different property. We're not too far from Chitwa Dam, so when we will leave elephant a bit later, we will go check the dam. Maybe there will be more elephant drinking there. It feels like we are in summer today. Michelle, you're asking if an elephant survives without a trunk. Well, it's not really possible. It happens sometimes that they lose the first part of a trunk, but then we can still use it to grab food and drink water. But if they lose that trunk completely, it will be very difficult for them to survive. They use the trunk to bring all the food to their mouth and also the water. So if they don't have a trunk, it will make it very difficult to drink water and also feed on the trees. So the trunk is a very important part of their body. Also they breathe through the trunk, and they can smell from through the trunk as well. I was saying it's like very hot today. It feels like we are in summer. I think it's the first time I'm wearing shorts on drive for a while now. Hopefully I did put enough sun cream. And sometimes when it's hot like that, we like just to stand still and just rest a bit, and then they will continue feeding or head towards the water holes to drink. I think the one in the middle, I'm not sure, but might be sleeping. Yes, no. I can't really see if the eyes is open. I think it is open, but he was leaning against the other one. So obviously elephant will sleep, and sometimes they will lean against a tree or a termite mound. And you can see this young one was leaning until against the other one there. There we go. Mommy decided to move and off they go. Okay, so we'll wait here a little bit. If we can't get a good visual, we will carry on to Chitwa Dam. In the meantime, we'll send you to Dan, who's at the water hole.
Welcome back, everybody. So I left the big windy watering hole, and there's another small one just over the western side of it. And what we have here is a very large crocodile. And it's on the bank, kind of sunning himself, trying to regulate its body temperature and increase it a little bit. And I mean, just taking it super easy on the bank there, not trying to hide whatsoever. There's often another crocodile in this watering hole as well. I haven't had a really good look around and I can't see it. And from time to time, small little baby crocodiles as well. But I've also had a good look around and I can't see any this afternoon, I'm afraid. Super interesting with that croc out there. I mean, these watering holes, although they do sometimes dry up, they're full of fish, and that's what these crocodiles will mostly be eating. However, we were sitting around this watering hole the other day, and I've mentioned how I'm looking for wild dogs this afternoon. And the wild dogs chased an impala into the middle of this watering hole, and that was kind of like the impala's only way out, but it ran into the watering hole, and as it did, this crocodile kind of left a similar spot to where it is now, swam right over to it and took it down, taking it straight out of the jaws of the wild dogs. They did hang around for a little bit, but the crocodile was victorious, I'm afraid. In the water, the wild dogs don't stand a chance, and neither does the impala. It's amazing, you can see those kind of scales on the back, and that crocodile's bone dry. It's probably been lying there for many hours throughout the day. And as it starts to cool down, it'll pop back into the water, where the water temperature will be warmer than the outside temperature. And it may move around in the evening. And they don't have to feed all the time. Got very slow metabolisms. They'll eat fish from time to time, and if they have a big meal like an impala, it can keep it going for a few weeks without really eating. I mean, we always thought it was quite interesting when we first saw little baby crocodiles around here that there was only 2 female crocodiles, but it must be a male and a female, and the one is significantly larger than the other. But yeah, I mean, a crazy prehistoric predator that's sitting on the bank here. Jackie, do females make the nest before they're pregnant? The females will kind of leave, they will create a nest, and then they'll come back and then they'll lay the eggs in the nest. And it's quite interesting that the eggs or the sexes of the crocodiles are determined by the temperature. I'll have to double check again, but I think it's the warmer eggs that turn into the males and the cooler eggs that turn into the females. So it'll depend on where that egg sits in the nest, depending on how warm it is, and that'll determine the sex. I mean, it's quite interesting. I did a fishing trip up on the Orange River not so long ago, and it's like perfect conditions, you would think, for crocodiles to be cruising in the waters and feeding. There's so many fish for them to feed on, but it doesn't get cold enough up there to reproduce or produce different sex crocodiles. The temperature's too warm, so that they only produce one sex and they're not able to breed, which is very interesting. Just love those scales. It does look super prehistoric, and it's like kind of armor plating on the back of that crocodile. See how the scales get bigger and thicker on the tail, and that tail is an amazing power source and a rudder through the water. They are incredibly good swimmers. Just interesting. I was trying to have a look here. I know one of the crocodiles at this watering hole is missing one of their legs, and it may have been born like that. It's tricky for a crocodile to survive with 3 legs. It also could have lost its leg, maybe to another crocodile. I mean, crocodiles are pretty ferocious predators, and if they got a chance and got a grip onto another crocodile's leg, I've even seen videos of it before, crocodiles grabbing onto another crocodile's leg and then doing the death roll, because they don't, particularly when they're in the water, they don't have the option to really have friction of that carcass being held back so that they can pull a chunk of meat off. So what they do is they kind of bite and then they roll to get a big chunk of meat off. And I've seen crocodiles doing that on another crocodile's leg, and as it did that roll, the leg just came straight off. quite sheltered here as well, compared to that bigger dam where we were a few minutes ago. Can crocodiles regrow their tails? They won't regrow it ever perfectly, but you'll see if it's a young crocodile and has a big piece of its tail cut off, it will kind of grow out, but never to what it was before. So they have an opportunity to grow it back in portions, but for the most part they will never grow it back to what it was. And I mean, they could also lose a tail very similarly as to how I said they can lose their legs, maybe to another crocodile, particularly at a young age. I mean, little baby crocodiles are predated on by all sorts of things, from fish to birds to other crocodiles. I mean, even if a leopard is being very, very brave, it may end up taking a little baby crocodile if it gets the chance. They've also got, like those hippos that we saw earlier, they've also got the best chance, or their kind of safety net is in the water, and if a little baby crocodile swims into the water, there's very chance of an animal like a leopard getting to it. Maybe the game path, or whatever. So we still want to bumble around here. Still really nothing that we have found since keeping on checking around, checking these big trees that we see, hoping for a maybe leopard, maybe lying on a top about, because they do that for their rest during the day, where maybe host their prey on top of these trees that we see around here. And many of these trees are acacia. Those are the tallest one. Acacia nigrensis, North thorns. And quite a lot of them, they're pretty much everywhere in the Lowveld. Many of them, they get disturbed plenty of time, debarked by the elephant. So these one and the marulos, they pretty much debarked by the elephants for combium layer. That's what the elephants benefit from these trees. So we're going to be checking around. It's another watering hole where you may later on arrive into that day or so. It's getting in a very much interesting day where the light is still available, still a little warmer, wind but not bad. Maybe luck sometimes come across the elephant drinking in one of these ponds, and maybe perhaps swimming about. Sunset tonight is going to be phenomenal for sure, I can tell. It's not such a cloudy around here. For now, it may build up later on.
So welcome back with us. We found those elephants on Chitwa. They're heading towards the dam, so they just crossed the road in front of us, but they're moving quite fast. It's quite normal. Sometimes if they're going to drink, they get quite excited before reaching the dam. I think what I will do on my side now, when we can't see them anymore, I will drive a little bit forward and then turn around and go see if they continue towards the dam. I would love to see them drinking. It's amazing how they can blend. They are so big but still From where I am now, it is quite difficult to see them. Obviously, with the zoom and the camera, it is a bit better, but like they blend very well. Oh, there's more crossing the road in front, actually. It is quite a big herd. There's a young one crossing and another one again. It's amazing that this morning we didn't see one elephant and now we just saw two herds very close to each other. Lauren, you would like to know if elephants mostly died of old age. Yes, so what happened is that they can live up to 60, 65 years old, but they die because they can't get enough food in their body because all their set of teeth are finished. So there are 6 sets of teeth. Every 10 years, one set is full. So there's a replacement after this one for 6 times. So around 60, 65 years old, the last teeth are completely wound out and they can't get enough nutriment in their body. So they generally die of starvation and because they are old as well. This is why you find lots of elephant carcasses in the same area when they died of natural cause. It's because at the end of their lifespan, they tend to spend some areas more where the vegetation is soft, for example, because it will be easier for them to chew. I don't know if you heard that rumble there. Here we go. We normally get quite excited when we get close to water and they want to drink. Yeah, so to come back to when elephant dies, so they say there's elephant cemeteries. Actually what happened is that they like to die, well they don't like to die, they die generally in the same area because they eat this soft vegetation which is easier to chew at the end of their lifespan. Okay, looks like I don't see more coming. Maybe what I will do, I will drive a bit forward when we lose that one and turn around and head back to the dam. Let's see if I can go turn a bit in front there. Might be some more elephant in front. I don't see more elephants. I would be very happy to see them drink, so let's maybe go to the dam and wait there. Maybe turn here, I think. Okay. I think I will try to go around. Okay, so we'll try to make our way to the dam, and in the meantime we'll send you to Pride Lands who have animals at the dam as well.
Good afternoon and welcome back on Bushwalk. Eventually our patience has paid off and the giraffe has come back to come and drink. There's approximately 6 of them that's now hanging around the area. Let's see how many of them is coming to drink. As mentioned earlier, one of my favorite things to watch giraffe doing is actually watching them drinking. And there you can see very cautiously approaching the water and then doing that little 45-degree angled split and then bringing the head back down. We mentioned earlier on that they've got a special ligament running between the head as well as the shoulders. And that ligament is at the moment stretched when their head is down. And what will happen, simply the ligament will automatically bring the head up without energy being expended. As far as I can see, the one closest to us is definitely a bull, much darker. Well, let me just rephrase that. Let's have another look at that. Quite often assumption actually brings you into trouble. If I have a closer look, both of these have actually got little black tufts on the ossicones, which would indicate that it's possibly females or young males. Sometimes colour can also be used to actually sex them, and in this case, the one that's darker in front of us is actually also a female. One of the things that you would have seen if it was a male was a penile sheath that breaks the outline of the belly. Exceptionally dark as well as exceptionally large female that we have here. As earlier on, we also mentioned that they've also got a number of special adaptations which enables them that the amount of blood that reaches the brain doesn't damage the Good afternoon, Katie, and welcome to the show. With regards to your question, when it comes to the skin thickness of elephant compared to giraffe, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to take a guess that the skin around the legs can possibly be thicker. But I'm going to have to do a little bit of research on that. But if I remember correctly, it actually might be. And that incredibly thick skin around the legs actually works like a pair of elastic stockings, which is also one of those features that assist with regulating blood flow, as the giraffe has got an incredibly high blood pressure, some 240 over 160. You can think of it as that head is down, a lot of pressure reaching the brain. They've also got a number of valves and elastic blood vessels that can also control the pressure of the blood that reaches the brain. If it was me that had to go down like that and have a drink and bring my head up like that, I would definitely be passing out. So a few interesting things. There's a lot of these adaptations that the giraffe has that we've just mentioned has actually been applied into space suits as well as military aircraft suits to prevent that the pilot blacks out. Seems they've had their drink and then are now moving off. Let's go and see what Cedric is up to and if he has found his elephants.
So yeah, we drove around the block and unfortunately they stopped their way to the dam. So they're currently feeding in that opening there. But hopefully they will continue, and I would love to see them drink. We're not too far from the dam now, so there's a big chance that they will head in that direction. Yeah, I'm still not very familiar with Chitwa for the roads. So I'm happy I came here today. Obviously, more I've spent time here, more I will learn the roads. Obviously, I know the dam very well. Yeah, there's lots of elephant around. It's amazing during winter you can see a lot of elephant, but during the summertime it gets more difficult to find them. Because obviously the bush is more dense. But also there's water everywhere, so we can find water in every section of the reserve. So we don't need to go at certain water points. Hopefully they will walk towards us now. It is very nice spending time with elephants. I know that BK also likes to spend time with elephants. That just have been very quiet for us for any cats since yesterday. It's very majestic when they walk like that. Even though this is a small elephant, it's still impressive. Mark, you would like to know how do we tell the difference between male and female? Obviously, if it's a fully mature male, you will know directly because it's much bigger. But another way to know, if you look at the forehead of elephant, so I can't see really from here, but the female will have more square forehead, and the male will be more rounded. If I get a nice example, I will show you. It needs to be a bit from the side of the elephant. If you look at the one on the right hand side, they're feeding on the bush because it's going to be very. You will see that the forehead goes straight up and straight at the back. Well, unless the elephant decides to turn his head. Yeah, so the forehead of a female will be more square, and of a male will be more rounded. It's much easier to see with old females. I think there's one coming at the back there. There we go. You can see it's very square forehead. Okay, so we'll sit here, see what happened. In the meantime, we'll send you to Dan.
Welcome back, everybody. So what we found here, we've left the watering hole and the crocodile. We managed to find one male zebra or a stallion. Actually, I can see a few of the other ones in the distance moving off. He's very likely just keeping up the rear, kind of protecting everyone, making sure that they're all safe. You'll see this one stallion like this, he's pretty big and looks pretty dominant over a group. And he'll be almost in charge of protecting them and keeping them safe. And he'll also be mating with the females, and you'll see his kind of harem or group of females will change from time to time in terms of size. Sometimes young males will come and join, and they will in fact have to kind of prove themselves to this big male by fighting him and proving their strength. And if they prove worthy and if they're strong enough, they will actually be given, he'll kind of give some of his daughters away essentially to those young males who might be joining his little herd or his dazzle. I know his bum is just visible now. Let's see if we can't move forward and have a closer look and see at the other ones as well. There are another two that have just come out. I'm sure those are two females, kind of leading the way with the stallion, bringing up the rear here. See how they're kind of walking in a single file. They'll be sticking to a prominent game path. Game path is just simply a path that's created by these animals, often over centuries of time. It's the path of least resistance and the path that they'll use to get places from point A to point B. Often game trails, when they get larger, take you straight towards watering holes, particularly in the wintertime, because those game paths get used very frequently. And they'll get used from zebras to giraffe to elephants to small steenbok and duiker, impalas. They'll all use these paths, and that's how they kind of get created. You'll often see animals walking on the roads and things like that as well. And I mean, the animals don't see the roads as we see them. They see them simply as a very large game path with very few thorns, and it's the path that's going to be the easiest for them to move around and walk on. See how they kind of stop every now and then, have a look around, smell. They were initially walking into the wind. Fern, they stand out so beautifully even when they're walking through the bushes like this. I agree with you, and it's quite interesting. It's unique to zebras as well. I mean, lots of these other animals have black or white kind of flashes in their body, whether it be under their tail or on the tips of their tail or behind their ears. And those are the colors that kind of stand out the most in the bush. And then you find it quite strange to have a zebra that is just completely black and white. And there are many different theories as to why a zebra's black and white stripes are an advantage out here. And if it weren't, zebras wouldn't exist. And let me see if we can't find them again. But there are many different theories to this. And one of them is that it can confuse tsetse flies into where they can land. But we don't have tsetse flies down here, so that's mostly up in East Africa. But also kind of the stripe pattern on the zebra can be quite confusing, particularly if all of them are standing quite close together. It can be tricky to pick out an individual. And then when being chased, you'll see the quick movement of the stripes, particularly when at high speeds when they're turning left and right, will kind of act as like an optical illusion and can confuse predators as to which direction the zebras may actually be going.
Every year in August, South Africa marks Women's Month. WildEarth would like to acknowledge and thank all the amazing females who have worked tirelessly to share our nature with the world.
We're gonna have to just wait, okay? She's gonna come out there just on my right-hand side, and she can see these impala.
Now you've got to inhale it. It burns. I don't know if it's supposed to work instantly. Go, girl, go! Get her! Get her, girl! Get her! I'm so looking forward to following her story in the future.
I'm really hoping there's two. I'm really hoping there's two. But you know, even if there's one, oh my goodness, everyone!
And I get to share it with you. Isn't that extra special? I get to experience it and show it to everyone.
And I turned to Shaw and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Sean probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
Yes, welcome back with us. I apologize, it is quite windy on the airstrip here at Chitwa. So we left our elephants. We decided to come do a little loop here and we'll head back to the dam. They were still feeding there, so I think it was a good opportunity to go check around the property here. And after that we'll go check the dam and wait for them there if they come. It's a beautiful airstrip here. I think there was a few sightings of cheetahs in the past here. If I remember well, Lauren was with one of them. It's a perfect setting for a cheetah here. I often see some steenbok as well on this part of Chitwa. Nasrin, you're asking how much can a baby elephant weigh when it's born? It's between 90 and 120 kilogram. It doesn't seem that heavy when you look at it. It's quite amazing because they're quite small when they are born, but obviously they have big bones and they're quite heavy. Obviously, every individual will be different. Some are born bigger, some are born smaller. But yes, between 90 and 120 kilogram. It is always a bit windy on that airstrip because it's a bit high on Tswalu. Lady, I'm not sure if I got the name right and the question. Maybe FC will repeat that to me. I apologize, it is quite windy here. So you're asking if the airstrip is still active? Yeah, I guess so. It is for the lodge, Tswalu Lodge. So this is for when there's guests coming to the lodge in small plane, obviously. It's not a star airstrip, it's in sand. So probably when there's guests coming, when they come by small plane, they will land there. It is in a very good condition, so they're definitely using it. Yeah, often people go on safari in small plane directly from Johannesburg, for example, and land at the lodges directly, which may make the commute a little bit easier. And we have a beautiful Ngala bull in front of us. Let me go a bit forward, but we might see them from the back. There's a young one and a bigger one. They are beautiful. So that's a Ngala male. The one on the left is a young one, and it just changes color because the young male, when they are young, they are the same color as the female, which is lighter. But now we can see it just like started to turn darker. Beautiful legs. And look at him feed. I don't think he's feeding on grass now. He's feeding on some leaves or other things on the ground. It is for me one of the most beautiful antelope. Gabi, you asking if they do alarm call? Yes, I think they do alarm call, obviously. I'm not sure how many times I heard a Ngala alarm calling though. Generally I hear more bushbuck and kudu, which live quite in the same type of vegetation they do. So I'm thinking on top of my head now, it is probably quite similar to a bushbuck, but I can't tell you what the sound is 100%. There's another animal I never heard alarm calling is a waterbuck. But obviously more you spend time in the bush, more you get chances to hear all these sound and enjoy as well. Yeah, leopard like to hunt them, especially the female. Yeah, so some people sometimes differentiate Ngalas to kudus, but there's a very big difference. The Ngalas are much darker, longer hair, and their horns are shorter. Obviously there's young kudus as well, but they are much darker in color and smaller than the kudu. Yeah, this young one just changed his color. Well, when I mean just maybe a while ago, but like it's not completely dark yet, and it's not light anymore. They can get very tame around camps. Often we see them at the camp there at Djuma. And we can come very close. Where I live as well, there's a few of them. They generally can come very close. But obviously you always have to be careful, especially with the males, because those horns can definitely hurt you. But generally they're quite relaxed around humans. Okay, I think we're not going to spend too much time here because we want to go check the elephant. Gino, you would like to know the difference between a Ngala and kudu? Well, they are completely two different species. The kudu male will have much bigger horns, also they will be much bigger. And the kudus are generally a more lighter grey than the Ngala. Ngalas are much more darker, in a way a little bit prettier, I would say, and smaller. And you can see on the bottom of the legs they look like socks, which is a lighter brown color, which is actually the same color as the female generally. Yeah, so at the beginning maybe it will take a bit of time for you to distinguish both of them, but I'm sure quickly you will be able to tell the difference. It is quite obvious. Similarities, they all have stripes on the side of their bodies. Kudus also have bigger ears. Yeah, still feeding. I'm just worried that we miss the elephant if they start going to drink, but they were still feeding, so maybe we can spend a little bit more time with those Ngalas. You can see this Ngala have lots of stripes, which is a bit more than the kudus, but obviously the stripes on the body can vary from each individual to other individual. So the female, I had quite sad story where I live. When the female get the lamb, well, a young, they generally hide the baby for a while when she go feed and then come back after a few days. And I had one female hiding a very young Ngala in my garden. And so this little Ngala was there for a couple of days. And then one morning I woke up, it was not there anymore, so I said maybe the female came and just took that Ngala away, that baby away. But later that day I saw the female coming and the female was looking for the baby. So the sad part, I think that maybe that young Ngala have been eaten by a leopard or something else. So it is sad, but it is what it is in nature. As you can see, the moon is getting bigger and bigger. We're going towards full moon. I'm not sure when is full moon actually. Yeah, so it was a bit sad for that female Ngala, obviously. Okay, while we're looking at the moon, we will start moving now towards the dam and hopefully the elephant will be there.
So we're still on a bumble around. Oh my God, probably we're going to try this wildebeest in the bush. Yeah, so we were bumbling around here all the time, but really, such a cat we're looking for. We come across once, I think it was a car tracks, and they crossed to the west there. We couldn't follow much. Now we got this blue wildebeest, which they are all taking it easy around here. into a thicket. Well, not very much thicket, but it's too much woody area. They're gonna have to do that sometimes when they spend a lot of time in the open, where they probably don't enjoy it most. Finally, they're gonna have to come into the thicket so they can actually carry on grazing around. And then a blue wildebeest, one of the animals that congregate in number, over 10 in a number, 7 in a number, and there's also love so much been mixed with the small antelopes such as an impala, but also some zebra if they're in the area. Got these wildebeests still in his woody area. It's not actually very dense. You know, we talk about the summer, how summer would affect the visual, which when we look for animals we can't see through, just like what we see these animals moving into this woody area here. It's so that the winter the grasses get eaten quite a lot. Those animals walk on top of them and they go all flat. Some of them break off. Finally they get shorter and shorter. But where they are, it's not always a very good place for them to be in terms of their safety. Rajesh, you're asking were the males a lot bigger than the females on the wildebeest? Slightly, but also the color, the male would be more darker than the female. So the female, they're a lot slightly a bit of a brownie, a bit dark, a little bit brown in there, but the males, they tend to be a lot more darker. And though they're in the wood, we can't even see which one is which there, but many of these are the females. It has to be a male here with them. And then he would have also dark face as well, a lot of hairy on their forehead, but it's also dark, very dark. Then we know it's him. And also one of these are territorial animals, the wildebeest. They move in a number, the females, no problem. But the males, there is a problem if it happens male have a jump into another male's territory. So it's always simple for the female to roam around non-limit, which means they would visit a lot of males from here. If there is a male that's dominating in this area, they're probably with him now, but then they're probably going to leave him, forage, go somewhere else, jump the border, and then with some other male, then you wouldn't, as a male that dominates you, follow them too much, because then they're going to another male. So females are free range, non-territorial. Again, you're asking with the wildebeest chase off the lions, that mainly is not happening, so they tend to run away from the lion. But I've seen wildebeest trying to fight the cheetah off from its baby. One of its baby was getting killed by two cheetah, and the mother turned around. But it was very sad thing to watch that happen, because finally that female wildebeest finally kill her own baby by horn straight into the heart when she was trying to defend her baby from these two cheetah. But yeah, from the lions that tend to run away. But dying by cutting by lions, it's always a fight, trying to get away. In that fight, it happens, they may horn the lions, but that's very rare. It's so far away we can't see them enough, but they have such a beautiful tail. You look at their tails almost like you're looking at their horse's tail. And then many of these animals, even well protected due to these tail, actually has been used in some of the African tribe. So everybody, I'm going to move down to that treehouse dam, and then let's go across to JP.
Good afternoon and welcome back on Bushwalk. We just got into this area that's been disturbed, and as you can see that there's a lot of dust that has been moved and soil that has been moved over here. And what has happened, it was a zebra that has actually came and rolled over here and had a little dust bath. One of the ways that we can tell that it's zebra is by the footprint that's right over here. Very round little footprint with a little triangle over here at the back. And this helps them to cool themselves as well as get rid of parasites. Another animal that we quite often find doing this is actually blue wildebeest. And if you do have a territorial male, they often do it on their territorial areas, and they tend to also roll inside their dung while they are dust bathing, but that scent will impregnate on their coat. We also find that there's a number of different bird species which will also utilize dust bathing. And one of them that I often find around here, which will utilize dust bathing, is the southern yellow-billed hornbill. And here we can see its little footprint right over here. Typical there is a hind toe, and then 1, 2, 3 toes pointing forward, of which some of the toes are being partially fused. It almost looks for me like a whole cluster of bananas that are together, and that's the way that I used to remember at first how to identify this little specific track. When it comes to birds, they also use a number of other strategies when it comes to bathing. Some of them will bathe in water, and the main purpose when it comes to birds for dust bathing is to remove excess preen gland oil. So basically it's old preen gland oil that has no longer a function in terms of protecting and preserving the feathers, so therefore it gets removed and a fresh layer gets applied. So quite often water will assist with actually softening it. We also see that some birds will actually leaf bathe, where they will go in between leaves that have got rain on them and then use that for bathing, while others will go directly into little shallow little depressions of water or to the edge of a large water body to actually go and water bathe. That's not the only strategies that birds will utilize when it comes to preserving their feathers. Some species have evolved to a strategy where they use smoke, especially in the crows in the northern hemisphere. They will take mouths full of smoke from chimneys and then put that onto the feather to get rid of parasites and things that might harm that feather. We're going to move off. Let's go and see what the others are up to.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back. So, no such luck with the wild dogs in the west, not even a track, unfortunately, but what we found here is looks like a small herd of elephants. Looks like one bigger female for now and quite a few smaller ones. I mean, that's what I say now. It is quite thick here, and you'll be surprised as to how a big elephant can disappear. They're not trying to hide. They can simply just disappear in this bush, in this veld. There's quite a few smaller ones as well. So that would make me think that there might be a few more bigger elephants around. I can only see the one really fully grown one. It's amazing to watch how they use those trunks. It's interesting to see them feeding in and amongst these bush willows. For now, it seems like it's mostly on the grass. So you can see a couple of this big female here. She's kind of popping her trunk down and feeding on the grass, which is much softer on her teeth. Not wearing it down too much. You'll often see these bush willows, though, even at the small size, them pushing them over to get to some of the roots, particularly in drier times. And we have had one of the wetter years we've had in many years. So there is lots of water on. There's still lots of grass. So as long as they can find nutritious grass, these elephants will feed on it rather. And it's incredibly peaceful actually, just sitting here. It's dead quiet, quite sheltered here, but some areas this afternoon it's been very windy. But here it seems to be very sheltered and very peaceful. Not even a bird calling. Killian, can elephants get tusk ache like toothache? Yes, they can, particularly if there's an infection in that tusk or where it's growing. And you'll see they use their tusks very frequently for all sorts of things. I mean, the females won't be really using them for defense. They may, if they kind of get the chance on maybe a predator like a lion, they might try and use their tusks as defense, or maybe to push another elephant out of the way. They also use them a lot for feeding, whether it be breaking off a branch or pushing over a tree or pulling out a root. And you'll see, because of the fact that they can use them so often, they often break as well. So if an elephant is trying to get to a particular root of a tree, they'll often put their tusks right into the ground and then lift their heads, which may in fact snap one of their tusks. And in the process of a tusk snapping, it may in fact cut somewhere up where it starts to grow, and that can turn into infection, and it can turn into something very similar to toothache. Sometimes it can even be so infected that it may cause the elephant to kind of get poisoned from the infection. And sometimes they may even die from that if they don't get it sorted out, or if their body doesn't kind of readjust to this inflammation and get rid of the infection. Their bodies will be good at dealing with it, but if it doesn't get cleaned and it continues to get dirty. The big cow at the back here kind of moving through. I think it was Andrew earlier who was talking about the shapes of their head. Look at the shape of her head. Very angular and square. Giving it away to be a female. You'll also see an elephant of her size. She's got very prominent, obvious mammary glands underneath her front legs, which as she moves into the open you may be able to see a bit clearer. I'm sure that young one that was just in front of her a moment ago is her calf. It looked like it may in fact still be suckling as well. Really peaceful scene, as I was saying. Nathan, do they only trumpet in distress? That is a really common thing for them to do if they are in super distress, is trumpet, whether there's a big angry bull that's kind of coming through and putting pressure on the calves. They may trumpet in distress. They can also trumpet in excitement. You'll see often when a little calf is born, there's almost like this huge excitement. There's also a bit of a worry from a lot of the other elephants because it is a super vulnerable time for that elephant, but they may also trumpet in excitement from time to time. You'll see even sometimes when the younger ones are running down towards a watering hole, they can trumpet out of excitement, particularly in the very dry seasons when they haven't drunk for a couple of days and they find some water. They'll trumpet and make quite a lot of noise as they get closer to the water, sometimes even going for a complete swim, submerging their bodies completely. So they will also trumpet out of excitement. I mean, they've got all sorts of different kinds of ways of communications that people don't even understand. We can't hear it, so we don't even really understand it. And they can even communicate through vibrations in the ground, and you'll see their feet are super sensitive to that. They may pick up vibrations from different elephant herds that are around in the area and kind of what's going on, particularly in times of distress. This little one as well, just seems like it's putting its trunk into that bush there, trying to get to some of the grass at the bottom, and some of that grass might be slightly more protected underneath that tree simply because animals haven't walked on top of it. It also hasn't been kind of destroyed by the sun just yet. That might be slightly more nutritious for that.
As we celebrate Women's Month in South Africa, we acknowledge and thank those women committed to conservation, working tirelessly both on the front lines and behind the scenes. The Endangered Wildlife Trust is proud of the women who dedicate their lives to fighting to save species, conserve habitats, and benefit people. Here's to strong women everywhere who are dedicated to protecting forever together.
Here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. Are now doing the Hades halt, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim, and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
The bushwalk feed allows the camera person some creative license. This is my favorite style of shooting. You have to be mentally and physically prepared. You're shooting handheld in some very strange and contorted positions, always with a straight back, often in the squat position, low to the ground. The creativity comes down to the relationship and sync you have with your presenter. The more you understand each other, the more you'll be able to tell the story seamlessly.
So everybody, we have seated here, very still, but looking at these, all the business of mongoose here, gathering about, probably they're going to sleep into it. That's probably their home, where they're going to aim to sleep on that for a night. very groomy. They groom one another for a parasite, because they forage through grasses. And they would carry so many of their ticks sometimes. So, and there are dwarf mongoose, which out here, this species and the banded mongoose, they are congregated. You find them in a group. It happens they just arrive into this area. See how they're checking around before they can sleep it in there. And it's always so beautiful seeing mongoose. They work as a group, help each other. Megan commenting that cute little guys. The mongoose, they always entertain, they're always doing something. Since we got here, they already done so much. All are grooming each other. It's all a family bond build up. But also there is a system in this animal where there is the pair breeding, which means there is an alpha male and an alpha females that they always breed. A lot of times, many of them, they were just going to help the whole group. Many of them, they can be also a babysitter. And off they go. So perhaps that was not a home, they were just checking out. They're going somewhere else. Anyway, still a day, not a day, but still a light. We'll probably return back if it's necessary, but they still need to forage a little bit for their feeding around here. So everybody, I'm gonna carry on, search around, hopefully we get anything else. And in the meantime, let's go across to Dan, where he still had an elephant.
Okay, welcome back everybody. So we're still with these elephants, and this little one has kind of gone for a suckle at the moment with that bigger elephant, that female that came in at the end there. I wonder if she isn't the matriarch, the one that's kind of in control of this herd. She looked like a very large elephant, and with kind of the behavior that everybody else has got, they seem to be very slowly feeding and moving around. And you'll see if the matriarchs at the back, they will move ahead of her, kind of just taking their time and being very careful on what they're feeding on. But then when she decides to go, she'll kind of get to the front of it and she'll kind of lead the way and everybody else will follow. There's also, from the back, she could give the command very quickly and very easily to everyone to move on, and that might be with a simple rumble that you might be able to hear, or it may be something that we cannot hear. In fact, it'll be kind of
Yeah, sorry about that. We're currently on Cheetah Cut Line. Going north, we saw some nice elephant on our right hand side, so we're trying to find a road to go on that side. We can't drive on the burned areas, obviously it's not very good. So yeah, I'm just waiting to find a junction which is just in front, and then we will head south again. There was, I think I saw 3 nice big bull elephants. 3 or 4, I'm not sure. I'm just going to turn here. So we waited at the dam a bit, but unfortunately the elephants didn't come to drink. So we decided to leave Chitwa. Sorry, it's a little bit bumpy here. Yeah, so on our way there was this 4 big elephant bull, so we're going that side now. Ashton, you're asking if we have meerkats in Djuma. No, we don't. We don't find them in this area of South Africa. It will be more in the Kalahari, more in the desert area, like also like Tswalu, obviously. No, I think I should take the right there. Yeah. So I'm just confirming the road with BK. BK have been here for much longer than me, so he's have a bit more experience on the roads. Yeah, so to come back to the meerkats, yeah, no, we don't find them here. Actually, me, I never saw a meerkat, except one in a center, for example, rehabilitation center, but not in their natural habitat, so that's still on my bucket list as well. I don't think we're too far now, so I will keep looking on the left and try to find them. Yeah, so now we're currently on the fire break with torchwood. I actually never really much drove on torchwood myself, because generally the signal is not great, so they are in front there. There's one on the left. There's 2 on the left. I think this one will be the better one. There's 2 there, yeah. Obviously, when you approach elephant, it's always good to slow down a bit and approach slowly. Oh, this one has beautiful tusks too. A bit thin, but quite long. Yeah. So this will be like a few bulls together. This is a nice one. This one that's more on the left as well. I count what I can see now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Might be a little bit more. Now we look quite relaxed. Currently feeding. Yeah, so it looks like it's an elephant day again today. But obviously after this elephant we will try to go on a mission to find some cats, which we haven't been very lucky, well, myself yesterday and today. So big bull elephant can be bigger than this one. Yeah, up to 6 tons, so it is very big. And the shoulder height will go up to 3.5, sometimes a little bit more. Looks like it might push that tree there. This is what we do normally when we want to push the tree. That could be nice to see. It wouldn't be not nice for the tree, obviously. It's just trying to break that branch there. They are exceptionally strong. And you're saying, wow, look at those tusks. Yeah, these tusks are not bad at all. It is quite long, but a bit thin. They are still quite thin. And this elephant bull will grow a little bit more, so maybe it will get bigger. It's very impressive sometimes to see, well, not sometimes, all the time, to see big bull elephant with very big tusk. Unfortunately, it's getting a little bit more rare to see them compared to in the past. But if you go in this area, the Kruger National Park, it is still possible to see very big elephant with big tusk. Maybe I will have to reposition quickly to get a better view of his tusk. There we go, currently next to a marula tree. That's it. It is so nice. Jerome, you're asking if they are the only animals with front mammary glands, if I understood correctly. So most of the animals, such as impalas, kudu, all the antelopes, have the mammary glands between the back legs. Elephant have them between the front legs, so that's true. But also the primates, obviously, like the vervet monkeys, the baboons will have the mammary glands between the front legs. And the reason for that, for the elephant, it makes it easier for the young to suckle, obviously. Very nice to see that elephant feeding there. And the sun started to set on the right-hand side. So it is really, really nice to have the sunset on one side and the elephant on the other side. This other elephant on the left there also have nice tusk. Okay, so we're going to sit here, try to get a better view of that elephant with nice tusk as well. So we're still sitting with our big bull elephants. I'm just going to stay quiet a little while just to enjoy the setting. Fortunately, it's not the best view now. It's amazing how we can hide very easily behind a little bush, even being so big. How nice is that?
How many buffalo vehicles are on Djuma?
Ollie, come on, walk a little bit forward and there we go. The sun is also shining on him, so it is very nice. Oh, it's so nice to spend time with big animals like these. It's always special.
So everybody, we have come to in the very same area where we were at this morning, where there was a visual of lions out of reach. Cannot go there still, but we can still zooming through them there.